Hey, it's Sharon, one of two runaway old folks. These are some of the packages that we stuff our little Volkswagen with when we go to Hope House Ministries in Lakeland. They have clothing there, and they have a pantry with food. They meet many of the needs of the homeless community in the area. This is Hope House. And this is the church where we go when we're away from home here in Maryland. On this day, I'm going to show you how I made a big batch of jambalaya. These are all of the ingredients that go into the jambalaya. Those are the packages that I used. These packages, I actually got some of these from AARP. They were made for old folks because it's a complete meal in a package. I used 8 of those. I also got some from Hope House. It has the rice and lentils in it, but you got to make it your own. So we added extra protein, which included the Georgia smoked sausage that I've only been able to find in Florida so far, a large red onion, and some yellow onions, sweet green and red peppers, celery, a whole bunch, and the 8-ounce packages. You can also use the jambalaya that you get at Walmart. In addition to the smoked sausages, I also used about 5 pounds of chicken thighs. And now for the prep for day 1. It took 2 days to make this. The first day I just did all the preparation for the chopping and getting that ready so that the next day all I'd have to do is throw it in the pot. And I did it this way because I don't have a nice big refrigerator like I have at home and big stove and my big pots. So I have to do it on a cook plate, a cooktop, and everything like that. So it's a lot easier for me to do all my cutting and chopping the first day, get it all organized, and then put it all in a couple pots. And I did have to use 2 or 3 pots because, like I said, I wasn't prepared, but I am now. I've since bought a nice big pot to cook my Hope House big batch meals. It's not necessary to cut the, I have a food processor that I have on board the RV, but I prefer just chopping it by hand. It's quick, it doesn't take me long. And it's a lot easier if your vegetables are frozen, and all of these vegetables were frozen, except for the onions and celery, of course. Normally, depending upon what I'm cooking, I will sometimes pull all the strings off of the celery, but I cooked the celery for over an hour, so it was no need for really to do that because it's soft and the strings were short, so it wasn't an issue. I use the leaves and the stalks of the celery. It's all great flavor, and I use them all. Those red onions can be very strong, but when you cook them, they're not strong at all. They add a lot of flavor to whatever you're cooking. And I use a combination of the red and the yellow onions, not because of any other reason except that's all I had left. And I didn't use the entire red onion. I used about half of that red onion. I didn't use the whole red onion. Once I got all the onion chopped up, put that in a container. it's time to get to slicing up the Georgia sausage. Or like I said, you can also use kielbasa or any Cajun sausage. This was a 5-pound package. And you can use all of it or just some of it, your preference. I know from experience that when we do the homeless ministry in Washington, those who come through the line always want to ask if we would give them some extra pieces of meat. So we just wanted to make sure we had plenty of meat in this jambalaya, so we used the whole package. So we had 5 pounds of the Georgia sausage, and we had about 5 pounds of chicken. Cut up all the sausage, put that in a bag, put that in the refrigerator, because I want to have that ready for the next day. So all I would have to do is put that into the big pots of jambalaya after I cooked it. I deboned all of the chicken ahead of time. It might have been easier just to go ahead and cook it and debone it, but I went ahead and cut the chicken off the bone and then cut the chicken into bite-sized pieces. If I had to do it again, I'd probably just go ahead and cook the chicken ahead of time, and then once it got cool, pull the chicken off the bone and then cut it that way. It probably would have been a lot easier. But it was late that night, probably early in the morning, and I was not really thinking like that. Just wanted to hurry up and get this all prepared so I could cook it the next morning. I boiled the bones. After I took the chicken off, I boiled the bones. And then once they cooled, I pulled that chicken off. Next morning, bright and early the next morning, I started cooking. I used just a little bit of the olive oil to start sauteing my veggies. And I do have a stove in the motorhome, but my counter space is so limited. If I open up the stove, then I don't have anywhere to put a lot of the other stuff. And it's a lot quicker for me that way. Put a little salt on it. That helps to wilt the vegetables, help them cook faster. Put the top on. That also helps it cook faster, and it helps it to keep from drying out. Once I did that, I added in the broth from the chicken thighs, from the bones of the chicken bones. And the chicken bones I just put in there with everything else, because you get so much flavor from the bones of the chicken. I just let that simmer. After about 20 minutes or so, I used a bigger pot, but much to my chagrin, that pot didn't work on my hot plate. So, checking the bottom, I see that it's not an induction pot. So, plan B, continue cooking this, but I eventually put everything on the stove. That's the only way I could do it. And at this point, I decided I'm going to get myself a big pot. I transferred everything into the pot. And I eventually used 2 big pots. Add in the cut up chicken meat. And it's not quite enough liquid in there, so I added more water because I needed just enough water to cover up everything. And this is where I added 1/4 cup of chicken powder. Now I use chicken powder, but you can also use chicken paste, bouillon cubes to give it a more flavor. If I were making this for my family at home, I definitely would have added a lot of spice to it to make it give it a little heat. But when you're cooking for people you don't know what they like or what they can eat, I didn't put any seafood in it because there could be somebody who had seafood allergies like me, or they couldn't handle the spicy food. So I made it without the extra spice and without the seafood. I let the bones cool, and then I pulled all the meat off the bones once those chicken bones cool. Now here, I don't know what happened, but I forgot to show how I cooked the jambalaya. Essentially, I filled the pot with water and then threw all those packets into that water. I did follow the directions on how much water to add, and I measured it in the big pot. Let it cook, and now it was time to add all the protein to the 2 pots. I removed half the jambalaya from one pot, and the other pot has all the meat and chicken and vegetables in it. And I want to make sure that each pot got an equal amount of the chicken, vegetables, and the smoked sausage. Yep, like I said, the next time I promised myself I was going to have myself a nice big pot, and I do. On that jambalaya back into the other pot. And another reason I don't like to use the gas, because all that steam, that motorhome would have been so hot during the day. But this was early in the morning, so it didn't heat up the inside too much. But in the summertime, we very rarely use the stove. This was more than enough for 30 servings. I try to make 30 servings every time I do this. And when I say 30 servings, it's not 30 half-cup servings, it's 30 big 12 to 16-ounce servings. I wanted to make sure that, number one, it kept the heat in, and it kept the jambalaya in the pot. And this is how we always transport our pots back at home in Maryland. When we transport to the homeless shelter where we feed the homeless there. And one good thing is the jambalaya doesn't slosh back and forth. We only had about 15 minutes it only takes about 15 minutes to get to Hope House from where we were staying in Florida. Cover them up. We have a thermal bag to put them in, and then transfer them. All set, ready to go. That back seat was packed, and we couldn't put anything in the back at all, so we had to put the food in the trunk. But that's a good thing. This is where we are, unloading, getting ready to set up. Rick and Debbie McClellan there, and they are setting up to serve. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you visited me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when do we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When do we see you a stranger and take you in, or naked and clothe you? When do we see you sick in prison and visit you? And the king will reply, Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me. Very truly I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go. Please like and subscribe. God bless. Bye-bye.